April 1945. The European war front simmers in chaos and destruction. Behind shattered cities and hidden among remnants of the Nazi regime, a specialized unit is formed, elite soldiers whose names will never enter official reports. Their mission is clear and ruthless: infiltrate deep into enemy territory and destroy a secret research facility that could shift the tide of the war. No reinforcements, no second chances. The men understand they are ghosts, sent on a mission that must remain classified even after their deaths. Their transport is a weathered, scarcely operational aircraft stripped of identification marks. Inside, tension is thick. Every soldier reviews his gear, knowing that failure means oblivion. The radio crackles with a final coded message. You do not exist. Move fast, move quiet. The plane takes off into the overcast night, disappearing into the shadow of war. The operation demanded precision, experience, and absolute secrecy. The command center in London was dimly lit, a stark contrast to the chaos outside. Here, the architects of the Phantom operation gathered the finest operatives from across the Allied forces, men who had proven themselves in the deadliest theaters of war, but had vanished from public records. There was Captain Robert Hayes, the American sniper whose calm in battle was legendary. Sergei Volkov, a Soviet reconnaissance expert with a past haunted by loss. Arthur McKinley, a British radio technician known for cracking enemy codes under impossible conditions. And two others whose identities were sealed, their skills known only to the highest command. Every man carried scars, both visible and buried deep within. Their personal histories intertwined with war's darkest moments. Each understood that this mission was more than just strategy. It was a test of endurance against an enemy not only armed with weapons, but with secrets that could rewrite the rules of conflict. Training was intense but brief. Their objective: to penetrate the forests of Czechoslovakia, reach a hidden Nazi research center rumored to contain experimental weapons and intelligence far beyond conventional warfare. The mission's success depended on their ability to move unseen, striking swiftly and disappearing before the enemy could react. The weight of silence pressed heavier than their gear. Orders emphasized one rule: no trace, no witnesses. The men were no longer soldiers, they were shadows, existing between worlds, ready to sacrifice all for a cause that history might never acknowledge. As they boarded the aged bomber, each step echoed a final goodbye to everything familiar. Outside, the night swallowed their plane as it disappeared into the unknown, carrying 5 men tasked with confronting the darkest secrets of a war that was far from over. The bomber's engines droned steadily as it sliced through the night sky, carrying the silent passengers closer to the heart of enemy territory. Below, sprawling forests and shadowed valleys blurred into one unbroken expanse of potential threats. Every man aboard knew this flight marked the point of no return. As dawn approached, the pilot guided the aircraft low over the jagged terrain near the Carpathian Mountains. The moments before landing felt suspended in time. Nerves tightened, weapons checked one final time, and eyes scanned the horizon for signs of danger. The landing was rough. The plane was battered and ancient. It came to rest on an overgrown strip hidden from enemy patrols. The men disembarked swiftly, shadows among the trees, their presence nothing more than whispers against the vast wilderness. Immediately, the unforgiving cold bit through their uniforms. The scent of damp earth and pine filled their senses. They moved with purpose, no hesitation, no distraction. The mission was precise: locate the secret research facility, gather or destroy all intelligence, and escape undetected. Yet, the forest was not silent. The faint crackle of footsteps, distant shouts of enemy patrols, and the occasional murmur of wildlife created a tense symphony of imminent danger. Every rustle threatened to unravel the fragile veil of their stealth. As they pressed deeper, the team uncovered signs of recent activity: scattered supplies, improvised camps, and the remnants of a hastily abandoned post. It confirmed they were close. The enemy was not far behind. But the most chilling discovery came aligned with their path forward: a series of cryptic symbols carved into tree bark, signs of warnings or rituals by those who came before. Unease spread silently among the men. This mission was not simply a fight for territory or information. It was stepping into a realm where war met secrets darker than any battlefield. The closer they moved to their objective, the thicker the fog of uncertainty and danger. In the coming hours, every heartbeat, every breath, every decision would weigh heavier than the last. The operation was no longer just about survival. It was about uncovering a mystery war had tried desperately to hide. After hours of careful navigation through dense woodland and treacherous terrain, the team finally reached the entrance to the facility. It was concealed beneath layers of camouflage and natural overgrowth, deliberately hidden from aerial reconnaissance and ground patrols alike. The rusted metal door, scarred from years of neglect and past skirmishes, loomed ahead like a gateway to an unknown world. Silence fell over the group as they prepared to breach. The commander signaled a final check, guns loaded, equipment secured, heartbeats steady. The air was thick with anticipation and the faintest hint of something unspoken, a collective sense that beyond this door lay a secret far more dangerous than any anticipated encounter. Inside, the bunker was a labyrinth of cold corridors and dimly lit chambers. The walls bore peeling paint and the lingering stench of chemicals and burnt machinery. Flickering lights cast long shadows, distorting every corner into potential threats. Each step echoed, betraying their presence to unseen eyes. The team moved quickly but cautiously. Their mission: locate and secure any intelligence that could reveal Nazi research projects, particularly experiments rumored to manipulate not just technology, but human physiology and mind. Reports spoke of projects aimed at creating soldiers who could transcend normal physical limits, a terrifying prospect. As they delved deeper, signs of recent activity surfaced: scattered papers, hastily abandoned workstations, and a lab coated in dust but strangely untouched in parts, as if someone had left in a hurry. The tension mounted with every discovery. They were not the first to infiltrate this place, and they might not be alone. Suddenly, distant noises, footsteps, radio chatter alerted them that enemy patrols were closing in. The team prepared for confrontation, knowing that once contact was made, extraction would become a race against time and ruthless adversaries defending secrets that could alter the course of the war. This was no ordinary mission. Survival hinged not only on skill and firepower, but on unraveling the shadows within these walls and confronting horrors born of science and desperation. The true battle had just begun. Deeper within the bunker's cold, oppressive walls, the team discovered a locked laboratory hidden behind reinforced steel doors. The room was cluttered with scientific equipment, dusty journals, and half-finished experiments, stark evidence of clandestine research that pushed the boundaries of ethics and humanity. Among scattered files, the soldiers uncovered detailed notes on neurophysiological experiments, attempts to enhance soldiers with heightened reflexes and resistance to pain through chemical and electrical stimulation. The papers referenced code names and dates, revealing this project had been active until the war's final months. A sudden, chilling discovery struck them: a series of confidential dossiers titled Operation Valkyrie II, describing attempts to control the human mind remotely using radio signals. The implications were horrifying. These were not just weapons of war, but experiments aimed at creating living weapons whose wills could be overridden. As they reviewed the materials, a faint humming noise began to pulse through the air vents, an eerie reminder that their presence had activated dormant systems. The air grew heavier, the tension palpable. Each man's instincts screamed of unseen watchers, as if the walls themselves remembered the atrocities committed here and were warning trespassers to leave. An urgent whisper from the radio technician broke the silence. Enemy patrols were closing in faster than expected. With sensitive materials in hand and no room for error, the team prepared to evacuate, knowing that escape would be more perilous than the infiltration. The mission's stakes had evolved. It was no longer merely a surgical strike. It was a race against time to expose a sinister military program buried deep in shadow and silence, and to survive the deadly secrets it protected. As the team ascended deeper into the labyrinthine corridors of the bunker, an eerie silence enveloped them, broken only by the faint echo of their boots on cold concrete and the rhythmic beeping of a malfunctioning console. The usual sounds of war, gunfire, explosions, shouting, were replaced by something far more unsettling: the oppressive stillness of hidden secrets. The radio operator, Arthur, detected faint electrical interference, a static whisper that fluctuated in patterns almost too deliberate to be accidental. It was as if the bunker itself was alive, sending out signals, perhaps a remnant of the very mind control experiments detailed in the files they'd uncovered. One member, Sergei, began to exhibit signs of unease. His steady hands trembled slightly, and at times he seemed distracted, staring off into the dim shadows as if hearing voices beyond normal perception. When questioned, he muttered about whispers, cryptic fragments that barely registered but gnawed at his sanity. The tension mounted as the group pressed forward, realizing that their mission was no longer just a physical assault, but a psychological battle. The experiments they sought had altered more than just technology. They had left a dark imprint on the very atmosphere, a psychic residue that threatened to unravel their minds. Suddenly, the radio operator's equipment picked up a distorted voice calling out in fragmented code, a chilling echo of the past, perhaps a warning or a trap. The team froze, every nerve on edge, knowing that any wrong move could summon the enemy or trigger an unknown mechanism lurking in the shadows. With time running out and sanity stretched thin, the men steeled themselves for the inevitable confrontation, not just with armed guards, but with the haunting legacy of a war fought in shadows and silence. The bunker's secrets were awakening, and the line between hunter and hunted blurred into obscurity. Darkness and suspicion thickened the air as the team pushed deeper into the bunker. Every step forward unraveled not only the physical maze, but also the fragile trust binding the men together. The recent strange occurrences and the oppressive atmosphere began to seed doubt among them. Captain Hayes noticed subtle changes. Whispered conversations ceased when he approached, glances exchanged too quickly to be innocent, and a misplaced piece of equipment that suggested someone was communicating with the enemy. The realization struck hard. There was a traitor within their ranks. Carefully, Hayes set silent traps, watching their reactions and monitoring radio waves for unauthorized transmissions. His instincts were confirmed when Arthur, the radio technician, was caught attempting to send coded messages. Under intense interrogation, the man revealed not just secrets, but a web of manipulation reaching deep into the operation's command structure. This betrayal compounded the mission's dangers. The enemy was no longer a distant threat, it lurked among them, turning their skills and knowledge against their own. The carefully planned operation teetered on the brink of collapse, forcing the survivors to question every ally, every plan, and every move forward. Time became their deadliest enemy. With compromised intelligence and dwindling trust, the team faced impossible choices: expose the traitor and risk further fracturing their unity, or proceed with the haunting question: how many lies and ghosts still hid in the shadows of war? This chapter marked the turning point. Their greatest adversary was no longer the bunker or the distant enemy, but the invisible war unfolding within themselves. Only those with iron resolve could hope to survive what lay ahead. The discovery that changed everything came unexpectedly. In a forgotten corner of the bunker's lower levels, hidden beneath layers of dust and debris, the team uncovered a heavy leather-bound diary. The faded letters etched on its cover simply read, Dr. Otto Stahl. Opening it was like unlocking a door into the deepest shadows of Nazi science, a chronicle of obsession, cruelty, and desperate innovation written in meticulous detail. Dr. Stahl, the lead scientist on the facility's secret projects, documented experiments that transcended conventional warfare. The diary described attempts to manipulate not only the body but the mind through cybernetic implants and radio wave manipulation. Stahl's writings revealed personal struggles, his increasing paranoia, the moral decay of his colleagues, and the terrifying success of brain control techniques. He wrote of subjects who could be commanded like puppets, losing their humanity yet gaining deadly efficiency. One passage sent a chill through the room. It spoke of Project Valkyrie 2, a program designed to create super soldiers whose wills could be overridden remotely, turning them into weapons controlled by unseen hands. Stahl's last entries hinted at mounting internal dissent and the dreaded idea that these experiments could survive beyond the war's end. Reading the diary illuminated the eerie whispers and signals they had detected. It suggested that the bunker was rigged with experimental equipment still active, feeding on its dark legacy. The psychological fatigue one of the men experienced suddenly made more sense. These ghosts were real, etched into the metal and concrete. As enemy footsteps closed in, tension crept back into their movements. With the diary secured, their objective shifted from mere destruction to extraction of this irrefutable proof. This was the knowledge that could expose a horrifying secret to the world, or doom them all to silence. The weight of the operation grew heavier. They were no longer just soldiers, they were witnesses to a chapter of war hidden from history. And as the bunker hummed with unseen energy, the danger was no longer just outside, but within. And time was running out. The bunker's corridors grew darker and colder as night descended, mirroring the mounting tension in the team's hearts. Every movement was weighed with caution, every sound scrutinized for threat or warning. The haunting knowledge found in Dr. Stahl's diary cast a long shadow over them, and it became clear that they were running out of time. Voices echoed faintly through the tunnels, enemy patrols closing in, their footsteps clicking on cold concrete. The men split into small teams, hoping to confuse their pursuers and create a path for extraction. But the narrow labyrinth offered no easy escape, and every corner seemed to hide new dangers. Suddenly, a hail of gunfire shattered the silence. The team's training took over. Men dived for cover, returned fire, and scrambled through the maze of chambers and stairwells. Despite their efforts, the enemy was relentless, exploiting every weakness with brutal precision. Amid the chaos, one soldier was critically wounded, his blood staining the floor as cries of pain mingled with rapid commands to keep moving. Yet, retreat was not an option. The mission's success depended on carrying the secrets of the bunker out alive. The battle stretched into the heavy night. Shadows became indistinguishable between friend and foe. Trust was strained to breaking as every decision carried the weight of life and death. The dying soldier's sacrifice underscored the mission's brutal cost. When the firefight finally dwindled, the surviving members gathered, battered but unbroken. The document, evidence of horrors that must see the light of day, was secured tightly. The extraction point lay ahead, distant and uncertain. As they moved into the oppressive night, the bunker's secrets clung to them like ghosts, a reminder that even after this fight was over, the war was far from won. Their resolve steeled against the unknown dangers still lurking, the true cost of the phantom operation just beginning to unfold. As the survivors pressed onward, fatigue and fear gnawed at their resolve. The bunker's oppressive silence was pierced only by the faint crackle of static from Arthur's radio. Suddenly, the static shifted. An eerie voice slipped through, distorted but unmistakably calling each of their names. The message was fragmented, a ghostly whisper from an unknown source. The team froze, the weight of uncertainty anchoring their feet. The voice seemed familiar yet alien, like an echo from a trapped mind. Attempts to respond only invited more static and cryptic bursts of code interspersed with faint pleading cries. The unsettling broadcast sowed doubt. Was this a trap set by the enemy, or an otherworldly remnant of the experiments they had uncovered? Sergei's earlier visions returned with renewed force, shaking the men's faith in reality. The radio waves had become more than communication. They were a weapon, penetrating minds and twisting perceptions. Whispers grew louder, paranoia surged, tensions exploded as some suggested abandoning the mission to escape the growing madness. Others insisted on pushing forward despite the psychological assault. Captain Hayes struggled to command, battling not only external threats, but the invisible war raging in their minds. With every passing moment, the boundary between enemy and hallucination blurred. The bunker seemed to breathe with a life of its own, a malevolent force feeding off their fear and resilience. In this crucible of shadow and sound, the team's courage and unity would be tested beyond anything they had imagined. The silent signal was no longer just a call, it was a summons into the abyss. To survive, they needed not only strength but clarity, a clarity threatened by the very tools meant to save them. The next steps would determine not only their fate, but the truth hidden deep within the war's darkest secret. The atmosphere within the bunker had grown unbearably tense. The invisible weight of the silent signal, the betrayal uncovered days ago, and the ever-tightening grip of fear frayed the team's unity. Each man now questioned not only the mission, but everyone standing beside him. Trust, once their strongest weapon, was cracking under the strain. Captain Hayes gathered the men in a dimly lit chamber, the flickering overhead bulb casting long shadows on their tired faces. He laid down the stark truth. Someone among them had been communicating with the enemy, jeopardizing the entire operation. The revelation sent a shockwave of disbelief and anger rippling through the group. The atmosphere turned cold, accusations hung unspoken in the air. The radio technician, Arthur, who had once been their lifeline, now sat isolated, eyes darting nervously as Hayes detailed evidence of unauthorized transmissions. Was it a calculated act of treason or a desperate bid for survival? No one knew. As the hours wore on, the team divided into smaller factions. Some argued for swift, decisive punishment, others urged caution, fearing rash decisions could destroy what little cohesion remained. Old wounds opened, past grudges, sacrifices unrecognized, and the burden of past failures surfaced, poisoning their fragile bond. Meanwhile, Sergei grappled quietly with his own demons, haunted by the strange whispers on the radio and his creeping doubts about his own mental state. The lines between ally and enemy blurred, not just outside, but within their minds. Despite the turmoil, the mission's urgency remained constant. Intelligence secured from the bunker must reach the Allied command. Yet, with every fracturing relationship, the risk of total collapse grew. In this crucible, leadership was tested beyond strategy and tactics. It demanded the strength to hold together a team unraveling at the seams. Captain Hayes knew that survival hinged on restoring trust or losing everything to chaos. Every decision now carried the weight of life and death, for the mission, for the men, and for the truth, buried deep beneath layers of shadow and betrayal. Time was running out. The bunker had become a pressure cooker of fear, deceit, and the ever-present threat lurking beyond every shadowed corridor. Captain Hayes called the remaining men together for one last briefing. The extraction point was several miles away, across terrain now crawling with enemy patrols and fraught with unknown dangers. The stolen documents, including Dr. Stahl's diary and the compiled research, were safely secured, but their weight was more than just physical. Each piece represented the reckoning of a war fought in shadows and secrecy, a war the world must never forget. The path ahead was treacherous. Communication lines were compromised, supplies dwindling. The team had to navigate through a gauntlet of traps, natural obstacles, and the psychological toll wrought by weeks in the bunker. Every movement was calculated, every breath measured, as they slipped between enemy patrols and avoided detection. During the long march, moments of camaraderie lightened the oppressive atmosphere. Quick jokes, shared memories of normalcy, brief oases amid the desert of war's cruelty. These moments were fragile but vital, rekindling the human spirit in men who had faced death countless times. Yet, danger was never far. As they reached a narrow ridge overlooking the path to freedom, gunfire erupted from below. Ambushed and pinned down, the men fought desperately, their training and resolve tested to the brink. One soldier fell, his sacrifice buying time for others to escape the kill zone. Breathing hard, battered but unbowed, the survivors pressed on until finally, the faint glimmers of dawn revealed the outskirts of friendly lines, a promise of safety in the mission's end. But the weight of what they carried was undeniable. The secrets uncovered, the sacrifices made, and the shadows they'd faced would forever mark them. Their names might fade from history, but their courage and the truth they bore would echo beyond the echoes of war. This was no ordinary victory. It was a testament to the cost of silence, the price of secrets, and the enduring spirit of those who dared to confront darkness itself. The dawn after their grueling escape greeted the survivors with an uneasy calm. The battlefield was silent, but the weight of their mission pressed heavily on their minds. They had succeeded in retrieving the documents, proof of atrocities and forbidden research whose existence, if revealed, could change history itself. Yet the price they had paid was staggering. Captain Hayes sat alone by a crackling fire, the worn leather diary of Dr. Stahl open on his lap. His fingers traced the notes and photographs, each page a testament to human ambition and horror. Around him, the other men tended to wounds both visible and hidden, scars of battle and deeper wounds of betrayal and fear. The world beyond the front lines was unaware of what had transpired in those dark tunnels, where science and cruelty had merged in deadly ways. Their success meant little without the will to expose these secrets, but commanding officers had already begun to impose silence, orders to classify, to hide, to forget. The operation that had risked so much demanded secrecy, protecting reputations and fragile alliances. In quiet moments, the men wrestled with their conscience. Was loyalty to their comrades greater than loyalty to truth? Could the world ever comprehend the depths they had seen and the sacrifices made? For some, the mission represented justice. For others, a haunting reminder of the darkness that lurked in humanity's soul. News of their survival was met with official thanks, but no recognition. They were ghosts once again, their bravery swallowed in the bureaucratic shadows. Yet, a bond formed, unspoken and unbroken, between those who bore the burden of truth and the knowledge that their names might never grace history's pages. And so, the legacy of the Phantom Operation lived on in whispers and hidden archives, a dark chapter waiting to be uncovered. Their mission was over, but the war against silence and oblivion had only just begun. For the men who faced the abyss and lived, the true battle was to ensure that the story they carried would one day be told. Years later, in a divided Berlin during the Cold War, intelligence agencies intercepted a mysterious radio frequency, 224 MHz, that defied explanation. This signal, unlike any conventional transmission, emitted an eerie pulse that carried fragments of distorted voices, cryptic codes, and what some operators described as chilling whispers. The frequency was traced back to the Carpathian Mountains near the site of the forgotten bunker. Attempts to decode the signal were thwarted by its bizarre structure. It seemed to warp sound waves, affecting the mental state of those who listened too long. Several operators suffered memory loss, hallucinations, and in extreme cases, sudden disappearances. Rumors spread that survivors of the original mission were somehow linked to the signal, their minds entangled with the remnants of Dr. Stahl's experiments. Theories ranged from a government cover-up to a residual psychic imprint left in the bunker's communications arrays, a kind of digital ghost haunting the airwaves. Despite numerous efforts, the source remained elusive, hidden within the mountains, continually broadcasting, a chilling reminder of a conflict that had never fully ended. The line between science and the supernatural blurred as those drawn to the frequency became unwilling participants in a legacy of war and secrecy. This enigmatic broadcast fueled Cold War fears and deepened the mystery surrounding the Phantom Operation. It served as a grim symbol of the unseen battles fought not only on the ground, but in the invisible realms of mind and signal, where the past's shadows echoed endlessly into the present. Many decades later, despite the declassification of numerous Cold War archives, the files relating to Operation Phantom remain sealed, classified beyond reach. Satellite images of the Carpathian Range reveal strange geometric patterns, circular formations deep within the forest that seem to pulse faintly on infrared scans. Local legends speak of haunted woods and restless spirits, shadows that move without bodies. The survivors, now few and scattered, live with memories too dangerous to share, carrying the burden of secrets that could unravel peace. Their mission was never just about sabotage or intelligence. It was a confrontation with an evolving war, one fought not only on battlefields but in minds, signals, and silence. Whispers persist that the mysterious signal on frequency 224 MHz still resonates, a digital phantom calling out across time and space, a warning, a remnant, or perhaps a curse. The story ends not with answers, but with questions, reminders that some wars leave scars invisible to the eye, but eternally etched in the fabric of history. The true cost of silence is the shadow that never fades.